Hello, beautiful moms and entrepreneurs. My name is Charisse Walker, and I'm your host of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. This is a place where we come together to learn, grow, and inspire. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Hello, Unbreakable Mompreneurs. I'm your host, Charisse Walker, and today we have Merit Kahn, and she is a comedian, she's a keynote speaker, and she has so many things that she is going to share with us about how to have happiness in your life and be a mom, as well as talking with salespeople and business people. So, Merit, why don't you go into a little more detail about what you do?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Charisse. It's always a pleasure to talk with other fellow mom entrepreneurs. So I play on 3 different stages. I do conference keynotes and workshops and training sessions for sales and leadership teams on emotional intelligence and being open to new ideas and innovation. And then I play on theater stages where I do a one-woman inspiring comedy show. It's really sort of the story of my life as told through the lens of comedy, but it's not my life my life story that's important. It's just the story of a life of ups and downs and how you can learn to see your own life through a comedic lens and how that just changes everything. I like to say you can rewrite your past and that rewires your future. And then I'm a professional stand-up comic, and I tour with a group called Moms Unhinged, and we are selling out theaters across the country. We have all mom comedians and all mom audiences for the most part. We have a couple token dads in there, but we're selling out shows and performing for more than 4,000 moms every single month, from Alaska to Florida and everything in between. And I have the distinction of also being director of partnerships. So for companies and organizations and groups and brands that want to get their name in front of moms, not just moms, but happy moms in good moods. So that's what we do.
That is fantastic. So how did you get started into all of this?
Well, I started my career in radio advertising sales, and I was leading programs to promote the radio station, and then I was doing sales training for myself, and I then started leading programs to sell sales training, and then I developed my own curriculum. So it's been an evolution. I think even as a young girl, I was always on stages, right? Whether it was twirling my baton or being a cheerleader or ice skating or gymnastics or the school shows, I was always in that performer space. And I feel like my whole life is now, it's really been a journey back to who I've always been. So, I've always found a way to make a difference for people, be inspiring, teach them something, but in a performance capacity, because I really do think that when you're laughing, you're learning. When you're light and playful, that's when new ideas come to you more honestly and consistently. And so, if I can help audiences, just lighten up a little, lighten their load, you can really hold more. And, in today's stressful world, that's important, especially for moms.
Yeah, no, it's totally important. I completely agree with you. So what have you learned when it comes to performing comedy specifically that has helped you in business?
Oh, that's such a great question. Performing comedy it has been the hardest thing I've done. So I was a keynote speaker, speaking to audiences of thousands of people, long before I really started doing stand-up comedy. And in many ways, that probably helped me because I didn't have that stage fright to get over that many stand-up comics have to, kind of work on to get through that. But the difference is when I'm there in a business capacity to teach you something, it's great that you like me and, we have rapport, but I'm there to teach you something. In stand-up comedy, the only purpose of you being the only purpose of being on that stage is that you are laughing like every 7 seconds. And that is hard. So there's just no content you can fall back on. But I think I learned a couple of things. I saw a lot of parallels, and that's one of the things I've always been very good at, is sort of making the connections from one world to another, and what's the commonality there. And I had an experience. They say that if you're in stand-up comedy long enough, you will bomb, and you're not really a comic until you've had that moment, is kind of what we say. And I remember very vividly the moment I bombed. I was in Toronto on business, and I just called this club in the middle of downtown. It was a Wednesday night about 10:30. And at that time in my life, all my jokes were about my failed marriage. And they were kind of mean. I wasn't a very seasoned comedian at that point. And I remember hearing two women in the front row, and they said, gosh, her jokes are kind of mean. And I'm like, oh, and it was that moment I thought, just like sales, just like business, you have to be in tune with your audience, right? I might have a series of 12 different things that I can sell you, but maybe only one of them is relevant to that audience in that moment. So I'm much better off asking some questions first, finding out a little bit more about who's there so that I can speak to their language, so that I can adjust my approach so that they get their needs met. And in that comedy club that night, I really got like, oh, I'm in Canada where everyone is super nice. And, it's 11:30 at night on a Wednesday. And these people are like in their early 20s. And I am like this old lady, old divorce lady. Like my jokes didn't connect with them at all. And now I have enough of a repertoire that I can look at the audience and go, all right, these are young people, I'm going to do my dating jokes. These are moms, I'm going to do my mom stuff, right? So know your audience, I think, was a very important lesson that I knew in business, but I forgot for comedy. And then once it came up again in comedy, it reinforced how important that is on any stage you're in.
Yeah, that is something that knowing your audience. And so you talk about emotional intelligence and you talk about with business. And so, I mean, how do you train people? Because obviously you do keynote speaking for businesses and sales. What are some advice that you give those people?
Well, I mean, emotional intelligence is a pretty area of focus, of study. I like to just give people things that they can use right away and things that they can relate to. So oftentimes, instead of going into a deep dive about all the 15 emotional intelligence attributes and how they show up in your world and da 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 da, I kind of just try to pick out a couple things that make sense. So one of the combinations that I talk about often is the relationship between optimism and reality testing. And those are two things we can assess for. And I like to talk about them in terms of stories. In fact, my one woman theater show is called Optimistic Personality Disorder, which is, thank you. I'm glad you laugh at the title. That's good. That's exactly what we want. It's funny, right? It's like, wait, what? Is that a personality disorder? No, it's not. It's funny though. And it came about. So having studied and been well practiced as a trainer and certified practitioner of emotional intelligence, I'm constantly talking about the importance of optimism in our lives, in our business life, in our personal lives. Because honestly, if you don't see things working out, uh, you're not going to line up all of your actions and behaviors to achieve that end. Because you might be thinking, well, it's not going to work out anyway, so why bother, right? So I think optimism is universally a very important emotional intelligence attribute that you want to have high. But if you have it too high and it's not balanced with a little bit of a dose of reality check, then you get into Pollyanna or, like, oh, I think it's going to all work out. And, I need $10,000. I'm just going to keep going to my mailbox and it'll show up somehow. It's like, no, that's not how it works. So I think that what I want my audiences to leave with, whatever stage I'm playing on, is, to be able to see life through a lighter, playful, optimistic lens, but also balanced with reality check so that you can see that things will work out, but you also are aware of the obstacles in your way. And then you can build a plan to deal with those or get the right team together to support you through that so that you can reach the goal that you want. And I think that's as true as a mom as it is in as a business owner.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. So there are lots of listeners that we have that are thinking about being a speaker, or they want to get on stages, or they want to do other things. And so my question to you is, if you're talking to somebody who feels like they have this purpose, they have this mission, what do you recommend for them to get to that next step on getting on a stage?
Oh, wow. Lots of different things. I mean, depending on the stage that you want, right? So if you're if but I think you nailed it with what how you phrased the question, because you said, if somebody feels they have a mission, they have a purpose, they have a message, that is the number one thing. Because I have uh had people call me and ask me, how do I want to be a keynote speaker. It looks so glamorous. You're traveling all these great places and you're treated like a rock star and you're found thousands of people. And I just help me figure out what I want to talk about. And then I can do that too. And I thought, whoa, like that's not how this works. It's
Zero to
a
100.
Yeah, it's just not how this works. What you see on stage, whether that is a Broadway show or a local theater or your kid's high school performance or, stand-up comedy or keynote speaking, the part you see is such a small part of what performers do. And admittedly, I didn't quite see that either, but at least I came up from the sales side of things. So for me, I realized like you have to get the stages before you have the opportunity to perform. And that's as true for me today as it was when I was just starting out. So as a keynote speaker, like I have a great keynote speech, but most of the time I'm just doing it in my own mirror, or actually I built a comedy club in my basement. So I got professional sound and light. So I go down there to practice. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, it like I'm rehearsing to an empty room a whole lot more than I'm on a stage. And that's just the nature of the beast. You have to get the business in order to do the thing that you love. And what people, the truth is, I do the performance part I do for free.
Right.
It's all the grunt work to get there that is what I have my clients pay me for. It's like, I have a speaking fee, but in my mind, the once I get to the stage, it's like, oh, it's my happy place. But it's a lot of work to get there. So my advice to anybody who has a message, who wants to be on any stage is, you know, understand sales. You have to understand marketing and sales to earn the right to be on those stages.
Yeah. And you know what I love that you just said, that you said, I'll perform for free, but it's all the work before that you have to pay me for.
Yeah.
And that is such a good distinction, because a good example is I met with a client this week, and like he's a repeat client, right? So I've sold him a home before. I've helped somebody else buy this home. And so it should just be a given. Like he wants to buy a new home, then let's go do it. But I spent 2 hours with him, talking with him, educating him about all the changes that are coming up because of the NAR settlement and all these different things. And it was very, very interesting because at the end of it, he's like, okay, so how much do we pay you? And so I'm like, how much do you charge? And I said, this is how much, it's my 3% full commission. And he's like, okay, so how about we do this? If they're willing to pay the 3%, then you take 2 and I'll take 1. And that's what I said. And so, a little bit of spice came out in the first time ever, because it was at that moment that I'm like, you know what? I am done being walked over. I'm done with these different things. Because in my old self, you say, oh, yeah, no problem. Okay, it's okay. It's okay. But instead, you have to know your worth, and you have to be so confident, and you have to be prepared, and you have to be experienced, right? So you can't just go on and say, I'm worth $10,000 when you've never done a speech before. You've never done,
Right.
And so I stood my ground. I said, I have spent X amount, which we won't talk about, this year alone, perfecting my craft. And it's tens of thousands of dollars, perfecting my craft with the experience. And then you're wanting me to not only help you buy this house, but you're also wanting me to teach you how to invest. Like that comes within a whole different ballgame of money. because
Mm-hmm.
I coach people to do that. So I'm just
Exactly.
like, no, this is how much. And if you don't want to pay that, that's totally fine. But if I'm going to take my time away from somebody that does value me and focus on you that doesn't value me, then it's not worth it. Time is limited. And so I said, I'd love to work with you, but here's where I am. And I didn't hear from him. I sent him this video text like, hey, great seeing you. Thanks for meeting. Da, da, da. Didn't hear from him, no response. And then 2 days later, he called me yesterday and said, hey, Charisse, we want to hire you. Okay. And
Good.
so for those that are listening, when you talked about it's all the work you do before that, you can get up and perform. I can go show houses in my sleep. I can go do different things, all the other stuff that I do. But it's the work behind the scenes that people do not see. And I even handed them 198 things that a buyer's agent does for our client. 198, right? And so it's always the work. And if you continue to shortchange yourself, devalue your time, your service, whatever it is that you do, then you're never going to get successful because you don't value your own self.
That's exactly right. Amen, sister. There was a story about a plumber or something. I didn't create this. Not my original story. Have you heard the one about, like plumber comes over, taps on the pipe for like 4 seconds and says, "This is your problem. That'll be $500." He's like, "What are you talking about? You just tapped on the pipe." And he's like, "Well, it's not the time. It's knowing where to tap on the pipe. Like that's what you're paying me for." And I often think about that. Is it more or less valuable to you if I can solve your problem in 2 hours? Is that more or less valuable to you than if I took 2 months to solve it? And most people would say, no, that's more valuable. Just solve the problem. Okay, great. Well, then don't make me put a proposal together to pay you on an hourly rate.
Right.
It's a $20,000 project. I'm just making up numbers now. Whether that takes me 2 hours or 2 months or 2 years, it's more valuable if it takes less time. So it's not an hourly rate. Anyway, yeah, you got to know your worth. And it runs in stages. So there might be a newer entrepreneurs listening and it's like, hey, you know what? You haven't earned the right yet to plant your feet the way that you just did in that story. I mean, I don't mean that. You can still plant your feet and know your worth and expect to be paid your value, whatever that value is at that time. And then as you get more skills and more training and more experience, you are more valuable. So if you don't raise your prices as you evolve, then you're not honoring the investment you've made in yourself, and that actually devalues you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's very true. And that was their thing as well. My niece just got her license, so she's only going to charge us 1%. And I said, right. And she doesn't know anything that she's doing. So it's probably more. You're
Yeah, you're gonna end up, you end up paying for that.
So I love, I don't know. Sorry, that resonated with me for a
No,
minute.
that's good.
Okay, so most important, like when we get back to sales, because obviously that's what you do a lot of, is the sales component and teaching people with sales. What are some of the most important attributes that a salesperson should have?
Well, when I teach sales, I use a framework that I call the open for business framework, because there is a big difference between being open for business in terms of being able to conduct a transaction and being open for business, like a mindset that gives you certain language and has you show up in the marketplace in a particular way. And so all of my programs really deal with what a good professional needs is a strong supportive mindset, the mechanics of the intricacies of what you're doing, a mastery of the tools, and then being in action. So I call it mindset, mechanics, motion. Mindset is what you think, the mechanics is what you say, and motion is what you do. So I'm constantly talking about different things in those categories. But I would say that really understanding your own emotions and the impact that you have on other people is a really important attribute of people who are successful, honestly, in any role, sales or leadership or anything. I just did a program for a leadership team in the operations side of a manufacturing business, and mindset is important for them. Yeah. And so I think that's a good foundation. And then in terms of what do you say, the most important thing you can say is the question that you ask. So, if I'm trying to convince you of something, you're most people are going to have an automatic conditioned response of trying to like poke a hole in it somewhere, right? Like if I'm being convincing, you want to defend yourself against being convinced. So the best thing that I can do is to ask you a question so that you discover something for yourself, because people never argue with their own data.
Mm-hmm.
And then in terms of being in motion, we all know about goal setting and creating a plan to reach your goals and yada yada. But I do encourage my audiences to think about what it is that keeps you from being in motion. And for a lot of us, that's stress, right? The bottom line is there's stress of some kind, stress, and there's fear, and that causes stress. And, we could pick any emotional word, and it's going to kind of come down to stress is a good umbrella term. And so one of the best strategies, it's free, it's available for everyone all the time, 24/7, no matter who you are. And it's a great stress reliever. And that is humor. And that's where I kind of weave in the fact that the way that I got through my divorce, the way that I've gotten through ups and downs in my business, when the world shut down, as a professional keynote speaker, when the world shut down and all the business I had on the books for a year was gone, like, how did I come back? And honestly, all of that had its roots in humor. It's what's funny about this? And that's what good comedians do, is they ask themselves that question about everything. And when you can find the funny, you can turn a bad situation around when things go awry. And it's interesting because that's one of the themes of my one woman theater show. And as I'm basically telling you my life story, I'm showing you throughout the 5 decades of my life that I've always done that in some way. But I learned that wasn't nature, it was nurture. It was some of the lessons that I had learned growing up, and then they were as valuable in the 6th grade as they are to me today at 54.
Right. I remember I was opening up a college. We were trying to get accreditation, and one of my department heads, she came in just like, the sky is falling, and just, oh my gosh. And I looked at her because I was the director, and I just started laughing. She's like, how can you laugh at a time like this? There's nothing that neither one of us could have done, and for me, I have learned to laugh, because if I can't control the situation, I laugh, it makes me feel better. Now I can think better. And so I love that you are bringing comedy to be able to bring happiness to people, because I just feel like there's so much out there, and there's so much negativity, and there's just the doom and gloom. I had this seminar last night that I held, and people are like, Charisse, thank you so much, because we've heard nothing but negative. And so I'm like, no, there's hope. The sky is not falling, everything is fine. And there's so much that the media wants to try to like pivot you to believe certain ways. And so I think that you coming into and bringing light in 2 different ways, light in terms of happiness and light in terms of emotion, to situations is very helpful, especially mothers.
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, we're handling everything.
Yeah.
We don't get the sick days. We don't get to, yeah, it's just you got to hold it all together for everyone else. And moms who are also business owners, I mean, that's just like, like how much more stress can we possibly take? But that's why, I mean, there's a lot of research on, if you think about when people are stressed out, they're overwhelmed, they're overworked, they're just plain over it. You're actually like, when you're stressed, it's almost like it's like, and you hold your breath, and like everything gets tight, and that's exactly what is keeping oxygen from flowing, and the endorphins from circulating in your body and opening your mind. And so really it's not a nice to have humor in the workplace, or to be able to laugh when when the sky is falling, like you were saying. To be able to do that means you are actually creating space. So when you're laughing and you're light, when things are light, you can hold more. And when they're light, there's more space. And when there's space, you can fill that space. There's oxygen flowing in your brain. There's uh, there's neurotransmitters that are firing that have literally have pathways to go to, because there's space.
Right.
And that space is the environment that's needed for new ideas, creativity, innovation, and new ways to solve problems. And then, so the more space you have, the more solutions to problems you can create. And the more solutions you have to a problem, the more confidence you feel that that problem will be solved. And when you feel more confident that a problem will be solved, everyone who works for you, everyone around you, your clients, your prospects, your family, everyone can feel a little bit more relaxed. Okay, we're going to get through this.
Yeah.
And all of that starts from, how can I laugh at, what can I possibly laugh about this?
Mm-hmm.
What is funny about this? And it's just a little opening. And if you can't find the funny yourself, that's when you take just a mental break and you whip out Instagram and you scroll through reels that are funny, or you watch your favorite sitcom or your favorite stand-up comic, or you get a ticket to a Mom's Unhinged show. but you just find a way to laugh, and it just changes things.
Getting back to the Moms Unhinged, talk to us about that. Like, what is the show about? Where are you guys performing? And what is the purpose of it?
Yeah, so shout out to my girl, Andrea Marie. She is the creator of Moms Unhinged, a good friend of mine and very talented, funny stand-up comedian and producer. So this was her brainchild. And basically what we are, we're a group of more than 40 professional or mom professional comedians. And now we're all over the country. And what she does is, as the producer, she goes out and she finds the theaters for us to perform in, theaters and comedy clubs. Mostly we're at the theater level. So 400, 500 seat theaters, anywhere from 2 to 3 to 500 is kind of our sweet spot at the moment as we continue to grow. And she books the theaters, and she's a marketing expert. So she does all of her marketing magic, and she promotes the shows, and people are loving it because there's nothing else like this.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stand-up comedy, but nothing that's really geared toward moms. And it's so all mom comedians, all mom audiences. And so as she books the theaters, she just goes down the list of the comedians, and some of us are headliner level where we can do a 45-minute set, and others, I love to host the shows, so I'm the first one out, energizing the audience, getting them warmed up, coming back in between the comedians, doing some funny bits. But just, that's my favorite role. But and then there's, we usually have 4 different comedians on the lineup, and everybody has a different point of view. We've got some younger moms and some older moms and moms in between. And I think we have a couple grandmas in there. And so everybody's got their point of view, but you will laugh and you'll relate to the humor because, we're not doing 25-year-old guy jokes. But yeah, the purpose, Andrea's real true vision is that she's creating an organization where women who want to be paid well doing comedy have an opportunity to make an actual livelihood out of stand-up comedy and performing and making people feel good. And she's done an amazing job. And you know, stand-up comedy is not known for paying comedians well, but Andrea has a profit-sharing model for our group that is very generous, and she's just got such a generous spirit. She has a big vision for this and sees us, now we're at the point where we're doing multiple shows across multiple cities with multiple casts at the same time.
Wow.
And so there was a night, I think we had a show in Alaska and South Dakota and Colorado all at the same time. And so I'm helping to expand that as fast as we can, because the challenge is you can only book so many theaters because everybody needs like a little deposit to book the theater. And so you don't make your profit until after the show and all the ticket sales come in. So it's an interesting business model. So I'm going out to secure sponsorships for us, national sponsors and local sponsors for each show, so that businesses who would benefit from getting in front of mom audiences, and the moms who probably would, be helped out a lot by, knowing about the businesses that are serving that mom population, can meet, and they can meet in this environment where everybody's in a good mood. That's when you're most receptive to new ideas and new offers. So it's a really interesting, unique sell, if you will, to be a sponsor or a partner with Moms Unhinged, because there's nothing else like this. And we're really excited. So we're just starting with our partnership sponsorship initiatives, but I'm super excited to be spearheading that, and that just gets us to more places so we can grow faster and reach even more moms.
Yeah.
I think we might have been to Utah. I'll have to check the schedule, but it's momsunhinged.com, and there's a tab at the top for shows, and that'll show you. I mean, we've got shows booked out through the beginning of next year, and we're everywhere. So come check us out.
So cool. Okay, so last question. You are sitting on a park bench, and this 9-month pregnant woman comes waddling. It's her first pregnancy, and she's excited, and you start to talk. What is one piece of advice you would give her? And it could be anything. It doesn't have to be just as a new mom, but what is one piece of advice that you would give her?
Wow, you stuck a zinger in at the end, Charisse. I would say trust yourself. You probably know more about how to be a good mom than you will read in a book. It's going to be a natural thing for you. And just be open to the adventure. That's what I would tell her. Just be open to the adventure, and be present. Be present. Wherever you are, be there.
That's great. Well, thank you so much. If people want to find you, specifically our listeners, how would they get a hold of you?
Meritkahn.com is the hub of all things. So MERITKAHN. So I encourage you to go there. If I could help you with speaking event, entertainment, you want to come see my theater show or some of the other comedy things I do, it's all on that site. And but I would definitely encourage you, especially this audience, go to momsunhinged.com and come see one of our shows. Bring all of your friends, and if you do have a brand that would love to be in front of 4,000 moms a month, find me on LinkedIn or my website, or it's anything. I'm easy to find, and I'd love to hear from you, help your brand expand, and see you at a Moms Unhinged show.
Thank you so much, Merit, for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
And moms, if you need to laugh, it's so important to laugh. It's so important to enjoy your life. Definitely check out Merit and her website and Moms Unhinged, as well as what she does. So thank you again for coming on. And moms, make it a great day. Beautiful moms, remember, you are unbreakable. Keep illuminating the world with your strength, pursuing your dreams, and reveling in the splendor of motherhood. This is Charisse Walker, bidding you farewell for now. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on the next episode of the Unbreakable Mompreneurs podcast. Until then, keep shining bright. Signing off with love, Charisse Walker.